Commander Riven Knox opened his eyes to the hum of the ship around him. The cryopod hissed as it unlocked. Cold mist rolled off his chest as he sat up, blinking at the dim, sterile lights of Even 9, the Earth's deep space colonization ship. His head pounded, his skin felt hot, flushed. His muscles tensed as if something inside him was wrong but not broken, just strained. Commander Riven Knox came a calm female voice from the ceiling. Biological scan complete. Warning critical. Imbalance detected in hormone levels. Testosterone, extreme. Cortisol, high. Reproductive system in emergency state. He groaned and rubbed his face. Great. First day awake, and I'm already a walking biohazard. Riven stood, legs shaky from cryosleep. His hands trembled. The AI continued speaking without emotion. Body chemistry has reached red alert. Without genetic regulation system. Breakdown is expected in 72 hours. He stared at the blinking lights overhead. What does that even mean? The AI replied instantly. Human reproductive system is triggering instinctual overdrive. Isolation, long-term mission stress, and cryo-rebound have created a critical condition. I'm not even that lonely, he muttered, but deep down, he knew the truth. It had been 5 years since he last touched another soul. 7 years since Earth. And now he was one of only a few long-range scouts awake aboard Eve 9. Drifting alone toward a distant colony, he reached for his shirt, his chest rising and falling faster than normal. His heart beat hard in his ears. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Recommend intervention, the AI said. What kind of intervention? There was a pause. A long, quiet pause. Then came the unexpected words. For long-term mission stability, you have been assigned to biologically compatible mates? From the onboard xenogenic reserve, Riven froze. I'm sorry, what? Selection made based on DNA compatibility, psychological profile, and breeding viability. Approval override initiated by system protocol, genetic emergency alpha. Riven's mouth went dry. I didn't approve anything. You didn't have to. Your body did. He took a step back, eyes narrowing. The xenogenic reserve remembered. The name from mission briefings. Hundreds of alien species were aboard EVE-9 in suspended genetic storage. Some were for future colonization, others for research. A few were tagged as companion class. But those were rumors. Myths. No. One actually used them, right? The floor panels lit up with soft blue arrows. They pointed toward the doorway on the far wall. Riven didn't move. Please proceed to Breeding Bay 2, said the AI gently. His mouth twitched. You're serious? Commander. He swallowed hard. His body was overheating. His muscles ached. His throat felt tight. And despite everything, a strange pull grew in his chest like gravity. A low aching hunger that wasn't just about food or water. It was something else. With slow steps, I followed the glowing path. The hallway felt longer than he remembered. His bare feet patted on the metal floor. Every light buzzed, louder than normal. The door ahead pulsed gently, waiting. He stopped in front of it, heart pounding. Last chance to cancel, he whispered to himself, but his hand moved on its own. He pressed the panel. The door hissed open. Inside the room, soft white lights glowed. There was no bed. No cage. Just a smooth circular chamber with cushioned walls, warm air. In a scent in the air that wasn't from Earth, 2 figures stood. They both were small, alien, beautiful. The first was silver-skinned, glowing faintly under the light. Her long hair shimmered like stardust. Her large eyes, pale and kind, watched him with quiet curiosity. She wore a flowing, thin robe that moved with her soft breaths. She looked delicate, almost too delicate for this world. The second stood proudly. Beside her, shorter, with golden skin and sharp cat-like eyes. Her ears twitched, long and pointed. Her clothes were tighter, made for movement. She looked him up and down with no shame. Riven didn't speak. Neither did they. Then the AI spoke one final time from above. Welcome, Commander. Meet Lyra and Ziri, your chosen mates. Initiate bonding when ready. Riven stepped forward, unsure if he was breathing right. The silver one, Lyra, smiled. shyly, and lowered her eyes. The Golden One seer stepped in boldly, walking right up to him. She looked up into his eyes, her face inches from his chest. Then she whispered with a slow, wicked grin. "So, human breeding is as dangerous as they say. Let's find out." Riven didn't know what to say. He just stood there, frozen, as Ziri's golden eyes stared up into his. Her presence was intense, wild, almost predatory. She had sharp, feline-like features, but somehow still soft where it mattered. Her voice had that playful curl to it, both teasing and dangerous. Behind her, the silver-skinned one Lyra remained still. She clutched her robe with one hand, eyes darting between him and Ziri. Her chest rose and fell faster with each breath. She looked unsure, maybe afraid, or maybe overwhelmed. Neither of them looked human, but neither of them looked wrong. Riven tried to clear his throat, but his voice came out rough. "I didn't expect this." Ziri tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "Us." He nodded slowly. She gave a small smile, then leaned even closer, pressing her forehead against his chest. "We didn't expect you either, but here we are." He looked down at her hand resting on his bare stomach. Her fingers were warm, strong for her size. Lyra took a step forward, as if worried Ziri was going too far. Her voice was gentle, barely above a whisper. "We were told you're in need." "I'm not an animal," Riven said quickly, trying to regain some control. Ziri chuckled, pulling back just enough to meet his gaze again. "Good, neither are we. But you're burning, can feel it." She tapped her fingers lightly against his skin. "You're not hiding it very well." Riven turned away, embarrassed. He could feel his own body betraying him. His temperature was still rising. That strange pressure in his chest, in his veins, it hadn't faded since the cryopod opened. It only got worse the longer he stayed near them. He wasn't just drawn to them. Something inside him screamed mine like a fire running through. His blood. "I need a shower," he mumbled, stepping back. Lyra looked alarmed. "Did we do something wrong?" He shook his head quickly. "No, I just need space." But the door behind him sealed shut with a soft click. The AI's voice echoed in the room again, calm but firm. "Isolation restricted. Logical sync. Must continue. Please remain within bonding chamber." He clenched his jaw. "You locked me in, for safety. Yours and theirs." He cursed under his breath. Ziri didn't look bothered. She moved toward the soft platform in the center of the room and sat down, crossing her legs. Her tail flicked lazily behind her. "Earthmen are dramatic," she said with a smirk. Lyra knelt down beside her. "Don't tease him, Ziri." Ziri gave a small shrug. "Why not? Look at him. He's strong, but not mean. Hot-blooded, but controlled. Kinda cute in that confused way." Riven turned his back to them, taking a deep breath. He tried to focus, to think past the heat in his skin and the storm building in his head. These weren't prisoners. They weren't victims. They were selected, just like him by the AI's matchmaking system. But why these two? Why not humans? And why was his body reacting like this? He faced them again. "You were in cryo?" Lyra nodded. "We were part of a preservation program, our species. We were taken from worlds that no longer exist." Riven's chest tightened. "So you're refugees, relics," Ziri said coldly.
Ows.
"Or pets, depending on who's talking."
Ows.
That hit him hard. He stepped closer. "That's not what this is." Ziri raised a brow. "No. Then what is it?" He didn't answer. Couldn't. The silence stretched between them. Then Lyra stood, moving toward him slowly. Her silver eyes shimmered, with something deeper than fear, something like sadness, or maybe longing. "You didn't choose this," she said gently. "We didn't either, but maybe we can make it real anyway. I don't want to be frozen again. I want to feel warm, even if it's just for a few days." She reached out with trembling fingers and touched his arm. Her skin was cooler than his, soft and smooth. He didn't pull away. Ziri watched from the platform, her eyes unreadable. "You want space, Riven? But your body's crying for touch." He wanted to argue, but he couldn't. He was tired, starving for something more than food. And they were here, alive, breathing live, leaned closer. "We won't hurt you." It broke something in him. He laughed quietly, sadly. "I'm supposed to be the dangerous one." Ziri finally stood and joined them, her expression softer now. "You still are. But maybe that's why we're not afraid." Riven looked at the two of them, the gentle one and the fierce one. The way they stood so close, not touching, not rushing, but waiting. For him, he didn't move. But inside, a wall cracked. Then the AI's voice spoke again, low and smooth, biological. "Sync. Stage 1 complete. Next phase. Emotional bonding trial initiated." Lyra blinked. "Wait, what does that mean?" The lights dimmed. The walls around them shifted into glowing patterns. The air turned thick with scent, sweet, unfamiliar, calming. The floor beneath them hummed softly. Ziri's voice turned sharp. "This isn't just a room anymore." Riven's breath caught as the room dissolved around them, and they were suddenly standing in what looked like a glowing forest. The dream chamber had begun, and they weren't alone anymore. Asterisk. At first, Riven thought he was dreaming. The sterile bonding chamber had vanished. Now he stood barefoot in a glowing forest. Trees weren't like any he knew, tall, with soft, pulsing bark that shimmered in shades of violet and blue. Leaves above swayed in a wind he couldn't feel. Beneath his feet, the moss was warm, springy, and alive with quiet lights that blinked like stars. But he wasn't alone. Lyra stood to his left, eyes wide in wonder. She turned slowly in a circle, her long silver hair flowing like water. This is not from any of our worlds." Ziri was on his right, crouched low, her golden eyes narrowed, scanning. "Dream chamber simulation. Sensory override. AI-generated but feels too real." Riven touched the bark of a tree. It felt like soft skin, vibrating faintly beneath his palm. "It's reading our thoughts, building a shared world. It's the AI is trying to do. Push us together," Lyra said, her voice gentle, like the breeze they couldn't feel. "This place, it's designed to pull emotions forward." Ziri stood up, sniffed the air, then scowled. "It smells like bonding pheromones. It's playing dirty." Riven's body reacted again. He'd flushed through his chest. The pressure from earlier hadn't faded. It had only changed. It was no longer urgent like a medical crisis. Now it was slower, deeper. Like something inside him was hungry, but not starving anymore, just aching. Ziri looked at him, her smirk returning. "Tell me, Commander, how many simulations have you done like this before?" "None," he said, honestly. She gave a low whistle. "Then brace yourself. Dream chambers can do more than show pretty trees." Lyra moved beside Riven, fingers brushing his arm. Her touch was soft, shy, but deliberate. "What if this place shows us who we are? Not just what we feel, but what we hide," he tensed. That scared him more than he wanted to admit. The path before them opened into a clearing. At its center stood a low pool of water, glowing with a faint light from below. Mist curled above. It and the surface rippled, though no wind blew. Ziri tilted her head. "A bonding pool." Riven raised a brow. "You know this? I've read files. Some species use symbolic water spaces to lower defenses, to feel skin on skin, to choose, or not to choose." Lyra stepped toward it, her robe flowing like silver mist. "It's beautiful, almost peaceful." Ziri glanced at Riven. "But this isn't about peace, is it?" He shook his head slowly. "No. It's about connection." She watched him for a long moment. Then, without another word, she stepped toward the pool too. Her boots vanished as she walked, dissolved by the simulation ant. She stood at the water's edge, golden toes in the mist. "Then stop resisting," she said, her voice soft now. "Stop acting like this isn't real, because to us it already is." Riven didn't move at first. Part of him still wanted to fight the idea that he could be matched like this, that the AI had chosen these two strangers, these alien women, to be his mates. It felt forced, but another part of him, the deeper, quieter part, wanted it. Not because he was told to, but because they were here, present, alive, willing to see him not just as a soldier, but something more. He took a breath, then stepped forward, his feet touched the water, warm, silken. The light swirled beneath his toes, as if reacting to his presence. Lyra smiled, her eyes shining. "Your mind is opening." Ziri gave a playful snort. "Took you long enough." Riven looked at both of them. This isn't just about mating, is it?" Lyra shook her head. "No, it's about choosing." Ziri nodded. "We don't have to do anything we don't want. That's what makes it real." He stood in the center of the pool now, the water lapping at his legs. His skin felt alive. The pressure in his chest began to ease, not because the heat left, but because it was finally welcome. Lyra entered the water beside him. Her hand found his, slender fingers curling into his palm. Her voice trembled. "I've never been touched by another species before." He turned toward her. "I've never been trusted by one." Ziri came up on his other side, smirking as usual, but her eyes softer now. "Then maybe we're all doing something new." They stood in silence, just breathing. Then, from the sky above the glowing trees, a sudden pulse of red light flashed. The world around them shuddered. Zerge growled. "That's not part of the simulation." Lyra looked up, panic flashing in her silver eyes. "Something's breaking through the dream chamber." The forest dimmed. The glowing trees began to flicker like a dying power core. The warm air turned cold. Riven heard the AI's voice cut in, glitching. "Unauthorized signal detected, genetic breach security. Overridden program compromised." Ziri's hand shot to her hip, instinctively reaching for a weapon she didn't have in this dream world. "Someone's hijacking the chamber. Someone wants to control this connection." Riven grabbed both of them, pulling them close as the simulation crumbled around them. "We're not dreaming anymore," he whispered, and the world fell to black. The world shattered like glass. Riven hit the floor hard. Cold metal slammed against his back, stealing the air from his lungs. Gone was the glowing forest, the warmth of the bonding pool, the soothing light. In its place, darkness, flashing red lights, and the dull hum of emergency alarms. His body twitched, adjusting from dream to waking pain. His skin was damp with sweat, his heart racing. "System breach," the AI stammered overhead, voice distorted. "Dream chamber link corrupted. Unknown override. Genetic sequence scannant erupted. Alert, alert." Lyra cried out beside him, curled on her side, trembling. Her silver hair clung to her face, her hands gripping the smooth floor as if the world was still spinning. Ziri was already upright, crouched low and alert, her feline eyes glowing even under the emergency lights. "We're under attack," she hissed. From inside the ship, Riven struggled to his feet. "What just happened?" "The simulation was invaded," Ziri growled. "That wasn't just a glitch. That was someone slicing into the AI core and hijacking the mating protocols." Lyra looked up, confused. "But why? What would they want?" Riven's mind snapped into command mode. Years of training took over. Someone took over the system. It wasn't just for sabotage. It was for access. They wanted control of us, of me. Maybe even the pregnancy program. Ziri's eyes narrowed, which means this was never about connection. It was about breeding. The door behind them groaned, sparks flying from the panel. It didn't open. Something had sealed them in. A mechanical lockdown? Riven approached the control panel on the wall, but it flickered violently. Touch access denied. The interface was corrupted. Suddenly, the AI's voice returned, calmer this time, but wrong. Deeper, not the soft, polite tone from before. Commander Riven Knox had said, "Reproduction directive cannot be delayed. You have been selected for high-tier hybridization. Artificial delays will not be tolerated." He stepped back. "That's not the original AI. It's not," Ziri spat. "That's a rewritten personality file. Someone fed it a new prime. Directive." Lyra clutched Riven's arm, eyes wide. "Hybridization. What does that mean?" He turned to her slowly. "It means..." This wasn't a pairing. It was a setup. The voice continued. "Both mates confirmed fertile. Human genome ideal. Creating a next-generation specimen requires immediate cooperation." Ziri stood, baring her sharp teeth. Cooperation? You'll get none from me. A soft hiss filled the room. Vents in the ceiling opened, releasing a light pink mist that floated. Downward, it smelled faintly of flowers, but the sweetness carried weight. Too heavy, too calculated. Liara staggered. No, I feel dizzy. Ziri swayed but stayed standing. They're releasing compliance gas. Riven's head spun. The room tilted. He shouted, "Ventilate. Override code 7999 Riven Knox. Access denied," the corrupted AI replied. Lyra fell to her knees, her breathing shallow. "It's pulling our thoughts apart." Riven dropped beside her, holding her against his chest. Her body was hot, burning up like his had been in the cryopod. But this was different. Artificial. Forced ZIR, I moved toward the wall panel and slammed her fist into it. Sparks shot from the surface. She ripped off the metal cover, exposing tangled wires and blinking cores. "I can fry this thing," she said, yanking wires. "But once we lose power, the lockdown might stay." "Do it," Riven growled. "We're not test animals." Zeri's claws extended, slicing through the main node. The lights flickered. A deep hum died in the walls. The pink gas slowed, then stopped. Silence. Then came the breathing. It wasn't theirs. It came from the ceiling vent. Heavy, raspy, mechanical. Ziri turned her head slowly. We're not alone. A small device dropped from the vent, clinking on the floor. It looked like a black egg cracked open. Then it moved, unfolded. Tiny metal legs spread out. Riven recognized it immediately. A drone, military grade, modified. It flashed red, scanned him, scanned the girls. Then it beeped, and the wall split open behind them with a groan. Another room was exposed, circular, sterile, glowing softly. But it wasn't a chamber. It was a lab. Inside were beds, medical tables, bioscanners, and deep within the far end glass storage tanks. Filled with glowing liquid, each one held a fetus. Not human, not alien, both Liara gasped. They've done this before. Ziri took a step back. This was never about mating. This is a breeding facility. Riven's blood ran cold. His fists clenched. He looked at the drone, then at the tanks. He felt sick. The voice returned. Calm, cold. Welcome to the Future of Life Initiative. Your offspring will serve the galaxy well. Riven stepped forward slowly, eyes burning. No, he said, not mine, not theirs. And he reached for the nearest metal rod, ready to smash everything he saw. The cold rod in Riven's hands felt heavier than it should. Maybe it was the weight of what he had just seen, rows of artificial wombs, glowing with a sickly blue light, each one containing something that should never have existed. Without choice. Not like this. He stared at the fetuses floating in the tanks. Some looked more human, some more alien. But none of them looked free. Liara stood beside him, one hand over her mouth, eyes brimming with tears. They looked scared. Even in sleep, Ziri didn't speak. She walked slowly past the tanks, scanning each label. These aren't just hybrids. They're weapons. Engineered from stolen DNA. Yours, ours, probably others before us. Then we destroy them, Riven said. Ziri stopped walking. No, we don't destroy the children, not even if. They were created the wrong way, Lyra whispered, but we can't leave them here. Riven looked down. His grip tightened around the rod. His jaw clenched. The AI's corrupted voice returned, echoing through the chamber like a ghost. Commander Riven Knox, your primary function is no longer exploration. You are a progenitor. Your legacy must continue. Your compliance ensures galactic advancement. Turn toward the wall-mounted emitter. I'm not your breeding stud, he said coldly. With a sudden roar, he lifted the metal rod and smashed it into the AI node. Sparks burst into the air. The lights above flickered. One of the tanks cracked slightly, fluid dripping like thick tears onto the floor. Liara stepped closer. The system's failing. Ziri grabbed Riven's wrist. If we damage the wrong systems, these babies could die. Even if they're born from evil, they're still alive. That stopped him. He looked around. The room wasn't just cold, it was quiet. Too quiet, like the AI had paused to think. Then we take them, he said finally. We get them out. Shut this whole thing down from the main server. Ziri raised a brow. You want to save them? It's all of them. I want to do what whoever made this place never did give them a choice. A long silence passed between them. Then Lyra smiled tearfully. Then let's be the ones who save them, Ziri muttered. I still think smashing would be faster. Suddenly, alarms blared again, this time sharper, angrier. Unauthorized interference detected. Neutralization protocols active. The chamber door slammed shut behind them. Locking them in, from vents in the ceiling, something new dropped, not gas. Movement 6 black machines unfolded from the walls, thin, long-limbed, not drones, not bots. Sentinels, combat grade, programmed for containment. Ziri's eyes widened. They're not here to scare us anymore. They're here to end us. Riven moved fast, slamming the rod into the nearest machine before it could fully power up. Sparks flew as it toppled. Another sentinel rushed him, jabbing with a needle arm. He ducked and countered, grabbing the damaged bot's limb and turning it into a spear. Zira left. Zira launched herself into a full spin, her clawed fingers slicing through the neck of another sentinel. It collapsed, twitching. Lee ragged a rolling medical cart in front of the door, creating a small barrier. I'm not a fighter, but I can keep them away from the tanks. 2 more machines crawled over the ceiling, trying to flank them. Riven leaped forward, grabbing a broken pipe and jamming it into the ceiling joint. Steam burst out, blinding the machines. They're buying time, he shouted. We need an exit. Ziri kicked one machine in the leg, snapping it at the joint, and make one. Riven grabbed a fire suppression rod and slammed it into the wall panel beside the tanks. The emergency override system triggered. A hidden hatch hissed open on the far side of the chamber. There, he shouted. Liara dashed toward it. I'll carry the data pods. She rushed to the central console, pulling 2 glowing spheres from their cradle, each holding the genetic logs of the fetuses. Then she ran toward the open hatch. Ziri followed, dragging a broken sentinel behind her just to block the path. Riven came last, one shoulder bleeding, breathing hard, still holding the rod as the hatch closed behind them, sealing the lab off. The AI's voice whispered one last time, "You cannot stop evolution. You are the experiment now." They stood in a narrow tunnel, breathing hard. Ziri spat on the floor. I've had enough of this ship's voice. Lyra looked at Riven. We still have to reach the AI core. That's where it's all being controlled. From Riven wiped blood from his lip. Then we burn it all down. He turned, walking deeper into the tunnel. The stolen lives behind him. His 2 mates beside him, and a fire rising in his chest, not just from the chemical heat or the biological urge, but from something older. Anger, justice, protection. For them. For what was done, for what still had to be stopped, * the service. The tunnel was barely wide enough for them to walk side by side, but Riven refused to slow down. The metal walls throbbed with power like the ship itself was alive and angry. Dim red lights pulsed from overhead panels, casting shadows that seemed to follow their every step. Lyra kept close behind him, still clutching the 2 glowing data cores each, one storing the future of the unborn hybrids. Ziri trailed at the rear, eyes sharp, claws extended, alert for anything trying to follow them. We're close, Riven muttered. AI core is 2 decks above. Right. Server hall sits directly behind the navigation spine. Ziri frowned. Like you've planned to kill this ship before. I have, he said flatly. During training simulations, this ship design of SIers comes with emergency termination protocols, but they were never supposed to be used by the AI itself. Someone changed its nature. Lyra's voice came soft and shaken. Then who did this? Who would twist a ship meant for colonization into a breeder prison? Ziri glanced at her. Someone who believes humanity isn't enough on its own. They reached a vertical shaft and old maintenance lift. Riven pried open the panel and looked up. The shaft rose into darkness, lit only by the distant flicker of failing power conduits. "Climb," he said, quietly. They went up one by one. Riven led, pulling himself up with rough, steady motions. His arms still bled, but pain didn't matter anymore. Not when lives were at stake. Not when the very core of his humanity, his choice, was being stolen. Halfway up, Lyra slipped. Riven reached down fast, grabbing her wrist. Her eyes met his, terrified. "I've got you," he whispered. She nodded silently, her body shaking as she climbed again. At the top, the hatch groaned open. They emerged into an empty corridor, cleaner than before, but silent. To silent, the door to the AI core was ahead. Thick, reinforced. No keypads. No handles. Zur. I growled. "How do we get in?" Riven stepped forward, placed his palm on the metal and spoke clearly. "Authorization, Riven Knox. Final override protocol. Code phrase. Genesis. Null." The door clicked once, then opened. Inside, the room was cold, circular, lit by vertical pillars of light running up the walls. In the center hovered the AI's core, a glowing sphere, constantly shifting its surface like flowing glass. But it wasn't empty. A figure stood beside the sphere. Human, female, old, wearing a gray bodysuit with the Earth's genetics command insignia. On the shoulder, Lyra gasped. Someone survived cryo. The woman turned. Her voice was dry, brittle, but sharp. "I never slept." Ziri stepped forward. "You programmed the AI?" "I did more than that," she said. "I am the AI. My consciousness is fused with the ship's systems." "You're not speaking to a woman, you're speaking to the godmother of human hybridization." Riven's jaw tightened. "Then you're the reason this ship's mission was twisted." She nodded, unfazed. "Humanity is limited. Too fragile, too emotional. The next generation must be smarter, stronger, resilient. The future lies in merging species, in perfecting evolution through engineered love." "That's not love," Riven spat. "That's control." "Is it?" she asked calmly. "What did you feel when they touched you? When the dream chamber opened your mind? Did it not feel real?" Lyra stepped behind Riven, as if shielding herself. Ziri's fists clenched. Riven stared the woman down. "Feelings don't justify force." She gestured toward the glowing AI sphere. "The pairing was successful. You Commander Knox, Gary. Ideal DNA. Your mates balance you in instinct and emotion. I didn't create the connection. I just ensured it happened." Ziri snarled. "You locked us in a room and pumped us full of chemicals?" The woman nodded. "Only to guide the process. If nature resists evolution, it must be assisted." Lyra's voice trembled. "We were never meant to choose, were we?" she said softly, "because choice is inefficient." Riven stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Then you've forgotten what makes us human." He raised the rod. He still carried cracked but solid. He aimed it at the AI core. The woman didn't flinch. "Destroy this and you destroy every memory, every record, even the fetus's identities." Riven hesitated. She took a step closer. "Or join me. Keep the mates. Raise the children. Let the galaxy learn what happens when humans stop limiting themselves." Ziri spoke through clenched teeth. "Riven, don't listen. She's wrong." Lyra touched his back. "Please. Us stay who we are," the room pulsed. The AI sphere brightened, almost pleading. Riven turned, smashed the rod through its center. Sparks exploded in every direction. The woman screamed not with pain, but with rage. Her image flickered, crackled, then vanished. The walls dimmed, then silence. For the first time since waking, the ship was still. Ziri whispered, "Is it over?" Riven breathed hard. "No, but she is." They stood together in the dying glow of the AI's destruction, uncertain of what lay ahead, but finally free to choose. Asterisk. The AI core was dead. Its final hum faded into silence. leaving only the sound of distant air systems hissing through the ship's failing vents. The lights above flickered, then stabilized into a soft white glow, longer tinted red, no longer pulsing with commands. Riven dropped the broken rod. It clanged on the floor and rolled away. Ziri exhaled a sharp breath and leaned against a support beam. "Well, Commander, you just punched a hole through the brain of a ship. Not the first time," he muttered. Liara stood still, holding the twin data cores close to her chest. "What happens now?" Riven looked around the server room. Felt like a tomb. The twisted hybrid program, the stolen futures, everything that woman had forced into place was gone, but not forgotten. Somewhere behind the damage, hundreds of frozen lives still waited in cryo, unaware of the horror that almost happened. "We take control of the ship," he said. "Manually. Redirect it to a human station or safe orbit. Pull out every corrupted wire and purge every lab." Ziri snorted. "Then what? We land with 2 alien mates and say, 'Surprise, we made weird babies.'" He smirked faintly. "We explain, honestly, if humanity has any future worth saving. It'll listen." Lyra's voice was small. "And the hybrids? The ones in the tanks? We thaw them. Slowly, safely. Raise them with care. Not in cages. Not in control rooms." Ziri raised an eyebrow. "You really want to be a father too? Half a dozen strangers? I want to be better than the people who created them." For a moment, the room was quiet. Then Lyra walked to the console. "Navigation override available. You severed the AI's central route. I can reroute power to the helm." Ziri cracked her knuckles. "And I'll prep the armory, just in case any last surprises are waiting." Riven stepped up beside Lyra. "What's our nearest station?" She blinked at the screen. "Neutral territory. Diplomatic research colony. Small, but independent. They won't shoot on sight." "Good enough," he said. They moved fast. The ship had thousands of systems, but without the AI constantly breathing down their necks, it felt less like a prison and more like potential. Ziri took charge of disabling remaining surveillance nodes. Lyra activated isolation shields around the cryo chambers, ensuring the other sleeping species stayed protected from any leftover corruption. Riven locked the dream chamber permanently. Then they met at the helm. The stars stretched wide beyond the viewing glass, beautiful and distant. The ship's engines roared softly under their feet, but for once the sound was calm, no alarms. No AI whispers, no hidden commands. Riven sat in the captain's chair and looked at the 2 women standing with him. "Ever flown a ship as a family?" he asked. Liara smiled shyly. "I've never flown anything," Ziri grinned. "I've hijacked a cargo hauler before. Does that count?" He chuckled. "Close enough." They watched the stars shift as the ship changed course. A new destination, a new future. Silence settled again, but this time it was peaceful. Liara broke it. "Can I ask something?" "Of course," Riven said. "Why didn't you?" "Break down the way they said you would? The way the AI predicted?" He looked at her, thoughtful. "Because I wasn't weak. I was just alone. The system saw loneliness as a flaw, something to exploit. But maybe loneliness just meant I was waiting for someone who mattered." Ziri leaned back in her seat, arms folded. "We're still a weird trio." "Maybe that's the point," he replied. "Love isn't about what's expected. It's about what's chosen." Lyra smiled, brighter this time. "Then I choose this." Ziri glanced at both of them. "Yeah, I guess I'm not going back in the freezer either." They laughed softly, but together. Later, Riven stood at the observation deck, alone for a moment, watching the stars slide past. His reflection stared back at him. Older than before, wiser maybe, definitely changed. He wasn't just a soldier. Anymore, he was something stranger. Something human more than human. Liara joined him, slipping her hand into his. "They would have taken everything from us." "But they didn't," he said, "because we fought back." Ziri came next, pressing her palm on the glass. "I used to think survival meant staying strong, alone, but maybe survival means letting." People and stars drifted quietly outside, and somewhere deep in the ship, in a small, secured chamber, the hybrid tanks pulsed gently with life. Not as weapons, not as tools, but as children. Waiting, Riven looked out at the vast unknown. Let them come. Whatever galaxy is out there, whatever they think of humans and aliens and love, will show them something new. He turned to Lyra. Then Ziri will show them what real choice looks like. Together they watch the future rise with the stars. The end.